This is Charlie Kao with TraveLmole Media Group in Costa Rica at the Zeit Foundation's the Long Run Initiative member meeting hosted by Pakwar Lodge by the Pakwar River here, with the sound we hear in the background, and next to their rainforest. I'm here with Randall Stratton, who's the owner of Tenuta Di Spannocchia in Italy, and we'll let Randall tell us what that is, that very foreign Italian sounding name.
Yes, so Spannocchia is the name of the place. The name comes from the owners for something like 7 centuries, the Spannocchi family. The word Tenuta Di Spannocchia, Tenuta means agricultural estate in Italian. So we are an example of a type of property ownership and management which really shaped rural Tuscany for many, many centuries. It was a farm operation, but the farming was done by tenant farmers. Very historic way that this part of the world functioned in terms of food production, raw material production even. And we are a relatively intact and unspoiled example of that type of estate, because it was a system that totally died out after the Second World War. And the system of tenant farming, of sharecropping, does not exist anymore on our estate either, but we have changed the architecture, the landscape, as little as possible, and so we're an unusual example, at least a visual example, of what we represent in historical terms. Plus, we're completely within a nature reserve, so we are helping with the conservation of local flora and fauna as well.
What's the acreage of this piece of land?
We're 1,100 acres, or 440 hectares, and we comprise about 20% of the regional nature reserve that we are part of, the Riserva Naturale Alto Merce, on the Merce River.
Let's go back, you say 7 centuries?
Yes, we know that the Spannocchi family were there in 1225, and they sold it in 1925 to my wife's grandfather, Italian grandfather.
And what's the history between yourself and Francesca, yes, your wife, of how you got involved with it? Because you're Americans.
Yes, yes. Well, my wife's father grew up in Italy. His mother was American, his father was Italian. He grew up there, but his father passed away in the 40s, and he and his mother basically returned to America, to the Detroit area, after the end of the Second World War. And he married an American. My wife was born and grew up there. I'm totally American, from Massachusetts originally. Skip over a little bit. In 1958, my father-in-law was based in the Detroit area. He created an American nonprofit foundation specifically to sponsor archaeology in that part of the world, in Tuscany, mostly at Etruscan sites. So this was the start of what turned into a long-running operation or activity, still going on today. We've expanded it considerably in education, and it is primarily with American professors, students, visitors, guests, institutions. So that started in 1958. I came myself to this property in 1981 as an architecture student on an architecture program, a 2-week program, and that is how I met Francesca. She was working there helping her father that summer. We met, we hit it off, we married a year and a half later, and so I've been involved most of the time since then. The original population of something like 40 tenant farming families in the late 1930s dwindled to 6 at the time that I moved there, and I came there the first time in 1981, and then those families also left and the population was down to 0 by 1987. Finally, it was clear that the place could not continue to exist without somebody really in charge resident there, so we made the decision to move from Boston to Spannocchia in 1992.
And develop what it is today. And I've heard you say that you're not a tourism enterprise, you're a conservation, community, cultural preservation enterprise with tourism added.
Yes, tourism is, we do farming. We actually had to resume farming to a great degree. It was almost completely abandoned, but that's necessary to really provide visitors or anybody who comes there an understanding of the place. It's absolutely essential. But that's not really a viable way to cover the expenses for a property of this size and complexity. And so tourism is a necessary part of it, but the tourism is really based on education. So through fee income for the educational programs, we are able to support the property economically.
Wonderful. How many last year? How many visitors, tourists did you?
Oh gosh, I don't
host?
have that. I don't have that number.
Hundreds, thousands?
Hundreds.
Hundreds.
Would be, yes,
under
well
1,000.
Into the hundreds, but under 1,000. Yes.
Well, Randall Stratton with the Tenuta Di Spannocchia
Very good.
in Italy. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.